My name is Yves Burri. I'm the founder of Aureus.money, and we're building a platform that is all about the monetization of gold, the tokenization of hard assets, and the servitization of those assets. For the financial side, we're currently building on Hedera Hashgraph. So it's a different chain than COTI. I know you have your own layer 2 solution. And there's pros and cons to every chain that you're building on, but there's a specific reason why we chose Hedera Hashgraph.
So when you first started this, what was the one biggest problem that you set out to solve?
Actually, the idea started coming when I was in university and I learned about economic theory, and there's this camp of Keynesian economics and the Austrian economic camp. And I was always kind of an Austrian economic maximalist, so to speak. I learned about modern monetary theory, and I just thought, I mean, this is like akin to modern art. I didn't really like the idea of modern monetary theory, so I became sort of a gold bug. I said, gold is great. Gold has to be the foundation of money. That's why our name is actually Aureus.money, and Aureus is the gold coin in ancient Rome. But then I saw an interview with Warren Buffett, which, I mean, with his achievement, if he speaks, you should take him seriously.
Yeah.
And someone asked Buffett about his opinion on gold. And he kind of laid back and he laughed and he said, I would rather own all the farmland in the United States than all the gold in the world. And when he said that, that kind of resonated with me, because gold is not really an asset, so to speak, because an asset should produce yield, like a farmland. Farmland produces yield, it produces potatoes, tomatoes, cows, whereas gold, it costs you money because you have to keep it safe. And when I heard this, I started to have the idea, why not combine both, where you can trade land and productive assets, so securities, for gold, and vice versa.
There's a lot of projects that are kind of, positioning themselves as the next blockchain RWA solution. Do you find that there's a lot of competition in your sector?
Yes, I do think that there is a lot of competition in the sector, but I would think we're very strongly positioned, and one of the reasons is I'm lucky to be born in Switzerland. I'm a Swiss citizen. I have a Swiss passport. I represent the Swiss values, and as most people know, Switzerland always had a very strong financial sector. Now what I'm going to say is my opinion, okay? So people are going to disagree with me, but even though most Swiss, they are sort of atheists, okay? They don't take many things as sacred. They had something that they took relatively sacred. Can you guess what it is?
I think so.
What do you guess?
I think we're talking about money.
Yes, exactly. And that was the banking secret. So Switzerland, they had this idea of, it's a fortress in Europe, we're handling your money, like we're how to say, we're a good custodian of money, and what happens in Switzerland with money stays in Switzerland. But then the United States, one day, they strong-armed the Swiss financial sector into giving up this banking secret. Basically, I mean, maybe the real story is different, but kind of the official version is, they just said, you're going to give us the accounts of our American clients, or we're going to kick you out from SWIFT. I mean, people who were there, maybe they're going to tell a different story, but that's how it's commonly understood. And since then, Switzerland understood that they lost their banking secret. Now they disappointed a lot of their clients. So if they want to keep a relevant financial sector, they have to innovate. They have to embrace innovation. And to do that, they need to provide the regulatory certainty for innovation. And it happened kind of slowly in the beginning, where they had this crypto valley in Zug, where they allowed people to pay their taxes in Bitcoin. So they just basically allowed the breeding of financial innovation. But then a few years ago, I don't know exactly the dates, but a law is passed and then it takes some time until it really takes effect. But about 2 years ago, they passed a new law, which is the DLT Act. I think it's called the DLT Act, okay? Maybe it has a more technical name, but that's what it's commonly understood. And this allows companies incorporated in Switzerland to tokenize securities, which is a very big step. So before this law, if me and the team here would start a company, and we would all own shares, like let's say everyone, 10 people, 10%, we have to go to the notary. That's clear, right? We have to sign it in a notary, the due process of law. But if the company is not public and a new person comes in and we like the guy and he wants to buy some shares from us, we would have to go to the notary each time to sign these shares over to him. It's an illiquid process, kind of. That's basically the difference between a publicly traded and a private company. I mean, there's other differences too, but that's one of the differences. And with this new DLT law in Switzerland, I mean, there's complicated aspects to it, so I'm going to simplify it down as much as I can. So there's more to this than I'm going to say. But basically, you can go to a notary and you can set in the statuten of the company that you're going to tokenize the AG. It has to have a specific form like Aktiengesellschaft, stock company, that you are basing the ownership of the stocks on the tokens. So if I'm sending, after it has been incorporated, if I'm sending tokens to you and we have a contract, meaning I agree, you pay me, I send you the token, you're eligible to have it, and all of these basic fundamental things are given, then you own the legal right to the shares. Meaning if there's any issues with the shares, you can go to the government just in the same way as you hold a share of UBS and say, hey, look, UBS did something wrong or they didn't follow the protocol. It's your legal title to the shares. And to answer your question, we're building a platform on this new law, which technically would allow a lot of financial innovation. However, there's a big but. And I saw an interview with one person, he's one of the big consultants, you know, there's in every field, there's like a few consultants who are really well connected to meet all the big banks. And he said something that I also found out on my own journey, talking to a lot of people in the sector. And that is that one of the problems why this didn't take off, because they expected it to take off, but it didn't really take off like they expected it would, is that when big developers, let's say property developers or companies that tokenize under this law, when they sell their tokens, they make the promise that the token is highly liquid. They're saying, listen, if you buy a traditional share, you can't buy and sell it easily. But if you buy this token, you can easily trade it. But what happens afterwards is they get the token in their wallet and now they want to sell it. And where can they sell it? Right? They would have to ring up their friends and call them. So we're building the platform that serves as a secondary market for these security tokens in Switzerland.
So I'm legitimately meeting you for the first time, but just before we hit the button, off camera, you said that it looked like COTI had a solution for you. So first, what is the problem?
So there is actually kind of one big problem in what we're doing, okay? And it's never good to talk about your problems, especially if you're a startup. But let's assume all features in our platform, they are fully functional, and Aunt Bertha owns some Swiss real estate and tokenized Swiss companies, and she also has her gold on our platform. So a big part of her financial life is on our platform. And now she goes, and let's say she has a net assets of $2.5 million in her wallet, and she gives a tip to some guy who sold her watermelon, okay? I'm just making an example. Mm-hmm. Now the guy who receives the $2 tip for the cutting of the watermelon service that he did, he can trace this transaction back to Auntie Bertha's account. And now he sees, oh wow, this lady, she has so much money in her bank account, and that's where she goes to eat, and that's the type of expenses that she has and trades she makes. And that's a dangerous thing if you think about it, right? Would you want to give financial transparency of your entire asset portfolio to everyone that you interact with? No, right? You wouldn't. So there needs to be a privacy solution for these type of services to achieve mainstream adaptation.
I like the anti-Britain analogy. That's really good. So are you currently actively shopping privacy solutions?
Yes, and let's put it like this. We were shopping for privacy solutions, but then we kind of stopped because we had so many other problems to solve, and all the solutions that we saw, although they are sound privacy solution from a crypto perspective, what are they called? Cypherpunk. From a cypherpunk perspective, they're sound solutions. The problem is we couldn't adapt them into our platform because we wouldn't be regulatory compliant.
So for you then, if you were shopping privacy, what would have been the most important thing? Would it have been, low cost of compute, lower storage, speed of transactions? Like, what were some of the features that you were looking for when you were shopping privacy, when you were still actively shopping privacy?
Okay, obviously, if I'm looking for a solution for my crypto holdings, then I would just want absolute privacy. But from our hat, from the hat of Aureus, we have to be regulatory compliant. So we would basically need a solution that allows us to keep transaction private for the guy who cut the watermelon. Terrible example, taxi driver or any person that you're interacting with. Whereas there is a possibility to give transparency based on individual cases.
So when you said that, when you were shopping other privacy solutions, you said that what you were looking at would have made that you wouldn't have been regulatory compliant with it. So I'm curious, you said that, like I said earlier, that COTI looks like they have a solution for you. Is it a privacy on demand type solution, or is it something else?
Well, I think the innovation that COTI has, although I'm not an expert in the particular field, but I know you have garbled circuits. It's an innovation that you have. And from what I understand it, what you're offering to your users, to your customers, is exactly what I just described, that for the users of the platform, there is the privacy features. I can't look into my wallet, you can't look into my wallet. But for the operators of the platform, they can, there's a word for it, they can basically give you access to this, similar like Google Drive works, right? You have a bunch of files and you can share your files and you can say
permissions.
You can manage these permissions. And I think that's very important. And the other thing I would like to mention is for our platform, the key central theme for us to be allowed to do this with some additional regulatory licenses that we're going to have to acquire depending on the volumes of business that we are going to have, is we're not allowed to have custody of users' assets. That's basically the holy rule, because if we would allow to have custody, then Binance could do what we're doing. But Binance wouldn't be allowed to operate this type of exchange in Switzerland. So we have to build on DeFi technologies. And COTI kind of seems to strike a good balance between it is a decentralized network, but it still offers solid privacy solutions without, what is my understanding, COTI having access to the assets themselves.
And I'm really glad that we got to talk today. And you have to promise me that if it ever does hit that 100% mark, that we get to do this again.
Amazing.
All right, man.
Thank you,
Nice
Tracer.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.